Greetings everyone, welcome to Advance. This is gonna be an epic game because here with the white pieces we have Boris Gelfand, yes, the legend himself, and with the black pieces we have Prague. Both players are absolutely spectacular players, and it's gonna be one hell of a game. So without further ado, let's start with this game. Here Boris Gelfand starts with d4. We have d5, c4, e6, and knight to f3. We go into the queen's gambit decline, knight to f6, g3, bishop to b4 check, bishop to d2, and bishop back to e7. So now position is looking very fine. You're going to fiend care to the bishop. Both players are going to castle, and let's see how it goes. Bishop g2, knight pd7, and queen to c2. Here c6 castles, and now finally going for this knight to e4, getting this knight nicely centralized. We have knight to c3, f5 now by Prague. We have rook a to d1, and just knight captures. Rook captures castles, and now just comes this e3, and the position is very closed up. So I know it's going to be a long battle, but here I think that's what both of the players were hoping for. And we have bishop to d6, so rook to b1, and now finally going for this a5. Rook to b1 with the idea of b4. Prague stops at the a5, and now what do? Do you play a3, then you play b4, and then you just take up space by going for a move like c5, or do you play b5? What do you think is going to happen? Here knight to e2 was played by Prague, and here with the move like g5, here it's very nice. I mean, it's really nice, because now here after c5, just pushing the bishop back, bishop goes to c7, you play b4, and after a captures, rook captures, g4, just getting the knight out. Knight to h4 could have been played. So here bishop could have been placed much better here. So instead, after this c5, you could go bishop to e7, but after b4, a captures, rook captures, same idea. After g4, you cannot go here knight to h5, and it doesn't make that much of a difference. But after knight to e1, you have to understand h5 is coming, and but this h5 and everything, you allowed one thing. g5 was played with the idea of that knight can never jump to f4, but now knight can jump to f4, and it's targeting not just h5 pawn, but it's also targeting this very nice backwards e6 pawn. And if the e6 pawn falls, then you have to understand your entire pawn chain gets weak. So now this knight has to jump here, so that the bishop defends here very nicely, and knight defends there. So the position is okay, but white is definitely better just because of this very nice knight. But here after knight to e2, we have queen to e7, not going for anything crazy here. But Prague could have gone for g5. His position would have been absolutely fine, but still he chooses not to go for it. And now we have knight to f4 finally going for this, but just knight to f6 now. c5 finally just pushing that bishop back, bishop to c7, and knight to d3. So just trying to just put as many pieces there and just greatly just have that square for yourself. That e5 square looks very nice. Bishop to d7, and then knight f to e5, bishop to e8, rook to c1, and just g5. Finally he goes for it, because you know your pieces are getting a bit too cramped. That's what you have to understand. Somewhere along the line b4 is going to be played. You're going to target the queenside pawns, and the thing is, if your pieces are a bit too cramped, you don't get any space, somewhere along the line you're bound to plunder. So that's why here g5 was a crucial thrust. He goes for it finally, but now just comes f3, not allowing any further pushes by either of the sides. Here king to h8, and I think with a move like king to h1, rook to g8, rook to g1, and after h5, it looks very scary. But after bishop to f1, you can just double up, and position is very nice for both of you. But here in this position, after king to h8, rook to e2 was played, and it's not a bad move. It's absolutely fine. Position is still closed, but you know, somewhere along the line you get to start getting the idea that you can get the queen into the game. Maybe you can get the rook into the game. Maybe you can get the queen here somewhere along the line. Maybe with the inclusion of knight being there, bishop is already eyeing this. You have to be a little bit careful. Queen to g7 was played right away, and here we have rook to b1, g4, and now just going for f4. The idea for Boris here was that he's going to push on the queen side, while Prague is going to push on the king side. And once you start to deviate from that idea just because you have to, if you have to somewhere along the line, you should. But when you don't have to and you start to go to the other side, I think you betray your own idea, and it becomes a thing in your mind that, you know, I'm supposed to be pushing here, now I'm just stuck here defending, and that too with the white pieces. So it doesn't give you that much confidence, and somewhere along the line you could blunder with the thought of that. And it happens, it's a thing. But you know, you just cannot help but sometimes you have to do it, because you know, you have to see that the attack is happening a bit too fast, and somewhere along the line you have to realize that, you know, that is the best idea. But it's just, you know, with Boris's experience, he's gonna realize something like this. So here just h5, and now you have to defend. b4 was played, but after rook to g8, b captures, and now after bishop captures, rook to b3, queen to h7, and finally going for this queen to b1. So just targeting that pawn. Now you have to defend. Rook to a7 was played, just very nicely defending horizontally, and vertically you're just attacking this. This is a very crazy thing, but still it works. And now with the move like knight to b2, it looks very nice, honestly, because here after h4, I know there are a lot of threats, and I'm just playing on the queen side. But here, if you go for knight to a4, h captures, and after h captures, there is no clear path. You have to go the king here, and maybe then you have some chances. But here, just bishop back to c7, trying to just eliminate this knight before you start to attack. So, and after knight to b6, you have to understand bishop captures, d captures. There's a very nice vacated square for me. I can get the bishop back, get the rook here, and if I'm able to do that, your queen is going to be very, very, very badly placed. So you have to understand that. There are some chances for me to actually get the knight to a very nice square, and maybe chances to actually attack the pawn 4 times, and then you won't be able to defend, and my position is going to be absolutely amazing. So all of this obviously is not going to be played by Prague. I mean, he's not going to blunder like this. But here, after rook to a7, we have rook e to b2, just finally piling up on that pawn. But now just comes this rook to g7. It's a forced move. You're going to play this. But after this knight to c1, now we have h4, and h4 is a very nice move here in this position, trying to create chances here. Knight to e2, king to g8, but now just g captures. And it's a positional grind. I can understand it can get boring, but once you actually start to love chess, when you have that passion for chess, you enjoy these positions as well. Here, just queen captures on h4, knight to g3, and now just comes this knight to h5. So Prague is definitely putting pressure, and you have to be very, very careful. Here, knight to f1 was played, not trying to read those pieces. Queen goes back, you play knight to g3, and most likely here there was supposed to be a draw, but now comes knight to g3 by Boris, expecting a draw in this position, but Prague declines the draw. He's saying my attack is happening faster, and I'm not going to be taking a draw now. He goes for rook to h7, and now it's going to be very, very difficult story, because here knight captures on h5, bishop captures, and just bishop back to f1, and bishop back to e8, rook to g2, and now just finally comes this king to f8. You don't want to align that king towards that rook. You have to be very careful. Rook to g3 comes finally, but now unfortunately with the rook to g3, you have to understand that there are some stipulations where you have to be careful. Queen to h4, and now that pawn is threatened. How do you plan to defend? Rook to b2 was played, but just bishop to c7, and now this knight is very strong. Somewhere along the line you're going to have to eliminate it, but here just rook b to g2, finally pushing, just finally putting all of the pressure here. But you cannot even break through with a pawn push like this with all this pressure here. So you have to be very, very careful and just wait your turn. Position is still a draw. Yes, Prague is putting pressure, but just all you have to do is just have some patience. A king to e7, but now just finally going for this knight to d3, king to d7, knight to f2, and now just going for this bishop to d8. So both players just waiting for the other player to blunder. Bishop to d3, rook to h5, h3, now just g captures, and h3 is a very, very brave move by Boris. I mean, I would not be playing that move. It just looks very, very scary. Instead, I would just get excruciating pain. I'll play just that closed position for hours and hours on end, and I know it's painful, but I'd rather get a draw than to push this and try and not get absolutely crushed, because that is a very scary move. Here, rook caps on h3, just attacking the queen. Queen to f6. Even still, now the position is fine. There is nothing wrong with the position. Here, just bishop to e2, now attacking the rook. Rook captures, knight captures, and just again queen to h4. So you're putting pressure on that knight. Here, just knight to g5, and now what do? Bishop to h5 was played here, just asking for more trades and creating more chances, but just bishop captures, queen captures, rook to h2, attacking the queen. Queen gives a check, and now just attack it back. Queen to h5, rook to h2, and maybe here again we can see a draw. Nope, just going for this king to g2, king to f2, very nice move. Bishop caps on g5, finally f captures, and although you can capture it, but then the rook jumps in and you don't want that. So here just e5, not going for any of those craziness. Rook to g2, attacking the queen, and now just going for this queen to h4 check. King moves back, now just queen to h3, and although you can push this and it seems very nice, it's not that very nice. Queen to e1, now just going for this, and there is too much pressure. There is just too much pressure. There is this thing called too much pressure, and that's definitely it, because here even if you try to go for this g6 move, which is the best move in this position, just rook caps on e3, and how do you even play this? Let's say queen to f2, rook to c3, just queen to e1, rook to e3, and most likely you're gonna have to settle for a draw here. But if one player even does slightest bit of mistake here after rook to c3, let's say you try to go for queen to f1, your position could crumble very fast, very quickly, because here queen to e3 check, and after king to h2, you have to understand your position completely lost, because now just queen to h6 check, king moves back, and a very nice rook to c1, because you gave the check, and king goes back now, and now unfortunately this is very nicely connected, and there is nothing you can do now. You're just going to be losing a queen. Even if you push g7, here's queen to e3 check first, just rook blocks. Rook has to block. If you go here, then just free, and even if you promote, you're most likely getting checkmated. So you don't want that to happen. So now just this rook to f2, rook caps on f1 with the check, king captures, and here queen to c1 check. This check is very crucial because now once the king goes here, now you go for queen to g5. There is no rook to g2, and I'm going to be grabbing the pawn. Thank you very much, and I'm going to be pushing my pawns. And yes, I'm going to be creating another queen, or I'm going to be checkmating you. So that's the idea here. But after rook to a3, we have rook to g3. Now rook to g3 is completely blunders the game, and white blunders the game. Pragg sees it completely and seizes the opportunity. He goes for queen to h4, now pinning that rook. There is nothing you can do. Even if you go for king to g2, there is this f4, and f4 is a beautiful move in this position. E captures rook to e3. You try to ask for a trade, but it just doesn't work because now there's mate in 14 moves here. Just queen to g4 check, king to h1, and rook captures. Whatever you do here, you're just getting checkmated, and that way in a brutal manner. And here just f3, there's nothing you can do. Queen to g2 is checkmate. So here after queen to h4, queen to f2 was tried, but now just comes f4, same idea. Rook to g2, queen caps on f2, rook captures, f captures, and that comes with a check. Here just king to f3, e2 check. Now you cannot even capture here. It's just a very bad move, bad position to have. The thing is, if you capture here, then the end game is going to be completely lost for you, and you cannot allow that. Here rook to e3 was played, the final blow, because now if you capture, I just promote to a queen, and there is nothing you can do. If you go here, then I mean you cannot even capture this, you cannot push this even. I mean this is just a really bad position, because even if you try to push this, I think I can just reach in time, and there is no way you can do anything. So it was on this move, on just move 65, that here Boris Gelfand resigned the game, and Pragg got this spectacular victory in a brilliant grind, brilliant play, positionally amazing here, and he was able to get this victory against an absolute legend, Boris Gelfand. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you all for watching.